We're back with another episode of the black box of study permits, as we like to refer to it. Turns out, if you've seen our other episode, turns out there's a little hole you can look into called CAPES notes. If you don't know what CAPE notes are, go back and watch our other episodes. Sohail, can you kick us off with this new case study?
Yeah, this new one is actually very interesting because the applicant got refused, but he or she sent a letter asking for reconsideration, and he or she got admitted.
Nice.
So this is like a successful case. But with the notes it says, I've reviewed the application. The applicant is traveling for the following purpose: to study for a one-year business admin diploma at this institute in Vancouver. She's 26 years old, employed as a sales engineer, or he or she. Previous refusal noted, so apparently this applicant had been refused once. I've noted that the applicant has some travel history and that the applicant has declared the funds are available for this trip. Furthermore, I am not satisfied that the purpose of visit is reasonable based on the following factors. The purpose of visit itself does not appear to be reasonable in view of the fact that the applicant appears to be already having an engineering degree and works as a sales engineer. Study plan reviewed. However, it is unclear how the benefit of taking this program outweighs the cost, and unclear why the applicant is not doing this program in the home country. In view of these facts, I'm not satisfied that the proposed studies make sense in the context of the applicant's economic background, prior studies, or career plans. In view of the foregoing reasons, I consider that the incentive to remain in Canada may outweigh the applicant's ties to their country of residence. For this reason, I'm not satisfied that the applicant will depart Canada at the end of the period authorized for their stay. And as strong as it might be, when this applicant applied again, got admitted.
Right, so Pavel, can you decipher this for us?
Yeah, sure.
This one's a good one.
But first let me tell you that actually this one only checkbox is for all these.
So what is, so this checkbox that's
is
checked
for
right now?
everything, yeah.
Purpose of
Purpose
travel.
of, so this, all this says is purpose of visit.
That's it.
And then we have like all these
We have
different-
that, alright. What does it really say?
Right, yeah. So again, so let's start from this fact that actually this case became successful later, right? But it became successful after the request for reconsideration. And if you ask me what is reconsideration, so in some cases when you want to resubmit, it makes sense not to make a new application, but to write a letter of reconsideration. There is no certain like procedure for this one, right? So there is no rules, nothing. It just kind of, you write a very polite letter. Again, so it's good to write this letter for reconsideration after you have your case notes, right?
So, but before you dive into this particular one and tell us, this is a new thing I'm learning, right? So you're saying there's an option to reapply, and there's an option to write a letter for reconsideration.
Yep.
Based on your experience, in what circumstances would you advise your client to write a letter of reconsideration rather than reapplying?
Okay, instructions tell that the only option, the only way when they will accept your request for reconsideration, if first of all, if you found that officer made a mistake, for example, here in the rejection, in the CAPES note or whatever correspondence you received from the embassy, so basically you found the mistake. For example, officers tell that no funds available, and you at the same time you provide funds for some 50,000 or something, right? So basically you found a mistake, and you want to show the officer that actually it's a mistake. Please reconsider again, right? With the proof I found. Or if you want to provide additional proof, for example, right? So you again write it in the form of reconsideration. When you try to resubmit, usually you resubmit the case, usually they tell you this in this rejection letter. So please, you have these options to reapply if you feel that you can add something to a case, right? So my advice is this. So if you really genuinely think that the officer made a mistake, right, and you can prove it, right, so you can write the letter of reconsideration.
Okay.
If you want to add some new facts, some new proof, for your case and want to make it better,
You
so this
reapply.
will be a new application. right?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive into this baby.
Sure. Oh, okay. So I don't want to read it again, but
Yeah.
let me start from this one. So there is another there is another note here, right? That officer wrote after he received the letter of reconsideration, and I can read this one, right? Received request for reconsideration. Now funds are good. Detailed study plan presented. I'm issuing, right? So basically.
So this is after the fact now, right?
Right, yeah. So basically, again, so the first one, funds are good. So I assume that in the first application of the students, she or he, they provided weak proof of funds, right? So basically, probably again, so there were no these bank statements, or bank statements were not in the form of 4 recent months bank statements, were just maybe some papers that we have this amount, that's it.
But whatever it was, he or she officer is saying this just based on a letter. Like there's no additional proof.
No.
provided, right?
Basically, when you apply for reconsideration, you usually add.
You can have.
You cannot just write no. You was wrong. I have lots of funds. No.
Okay, so
have to
you can
prove
have
every
evidence.
statement.
Like, okay.
Yeah, every statement you do, you have to prove.
You
have
can
to provide
provide,
proof. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So again, so if right now in the reconsideration note from the officer he writes that funds are good now, so that means in the previous application that was his concern, right? Now second line here is detailed study plan presented, right? So now the visa officer is happy with whatever student wrote there, right? Again, so we made the conclusion that the first one, original application, the study plan was not presented, or the one that she wrote, it didn't give enough explanation why she needs this study and why she needs to do this program and how she will benefit from this program, right? Let me read also, okay, so this after reconsideration. So now let me jump into the one that reason for refusal for the first one, right? So we read this one. The purpose of visit itself does not appear to be reasonable. Okay, so again, that means that, one second, let me read this one. The fact that the applicant appears to already have an engineering university degree and works as a sales engineer. So I assume again that this applicant, she applied for some course that she already has education, right? So she, for example, she already has this engineering degree back from home, and now she applies for the same or very, very similar program. It's never a good idea to do the same thing you already have, right?
It should be complementary, right? Or,
Right.
or supplementary.
Somehow it should add something to your previous education,
Right.
or even better if, for example, you never had this education, or maybe you progress in some way when you study this. in Canada.
Again, it's like having a family in Canada. It's a double-edged sword.
Yes.
Because I've seen it both ways. It's like when it is completely unrelated to what you have done. They're like, "What are you doing? You're now 30 years old and you're studying over," or something like that. And then when it is related, like more than a certain amount related, they're like, "You're redoing
You're doing it again."
Yeah,
Right.
you're doing it again. So I think it should be related, but it should be complementary. Like that's what I'm thinking. What do you think? Like it is your
Again, so what we can learn from this thing, again, so basically when this person reapplies, she didn't change the institution, right? So it was the same institution, the same program, everything's the same. So what this person changed in her reconsideration, she changed detailed study plan. So basically she or he, they did a very detailed explanation why they want to study this program, why they want to study this in this particular university, and how they will benefit from this education they will get in Canada. So this is the main thing we can learn from this case.
okay.
Very good. What I find fascinating, just as a last note before we end this, is without going into what the date is on here, the difference between these two notes on here is almost a month. That's it.
Yeah.
Like within, this person got the rejection letter, got the CAPES notes, right? You said it takes 3 weeks to, or something like that, to get the
A
CAPES.
month, almost
A
30
month.
days.
So and then wrote the letter. The letter got to the embassy. The officer reviewed it and had this feedback of I'm issuing. all within just a little over a month here. That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's quick.
yeah, that's what you should do in some cases. Yeah.
That's great. All right, that's the end of this episode. Hopefully you learned something from this case. We'll be back.